Why don't you take your Bibles, switch this over, and let's go together to Nehemiah chapter 6. We dealt with verse number 1 and verse number 2, but I'd like to, if the Lord allows me to move swiftly enough, I'd like to get all the way through chapter 6 tonight. I told you I didn't want to go past 1 and 2 just because everything else kind of flows together to make a complete understanding of the fight that's going on. We already dealt with, as I said, chapter 4 was external opposition as far as threats and just discouragement. Chapter 5 was internal opposition with things going on within the children of Israel that should not have been there. And then Nehemiah 6 presents, once again, external, but in a more what we would call the covert opposition, okay? It is directed specifically at the leadership of the people and the work that's being accomplished. The goal is not necessarily just to cause fear and issues for the people, but to really cause a fear and a struggle within the mind and the heart and the life of Nehemiah himself. And this covert opposition comes in a form of conspiracy. And there is threatenings, yes. There's attempts to distract and appear to be friendly and appear to want to have a talk about things to get on the same page, but honestly, every bit of it is just a matter of trying to get Nehemiah to come away from the work and away from where he is safe in the center of God's will and find him down away from it all so they can actually take his life. And if they can ruin him, get him out of the picture, then the children of Israel will fall apart because as leadership goes, so goes those that are following that leadership. And so they want to take the strong, or I should say the strength of the head and remove it. And through this, they attack, they come after Nehemiah, they try to distract him. Sanballat and Geshem are two of the individuals that really come after him. Tobiah is also involved in that. And so they're constantly trying to get him to come away. We said in verse number 2, they wanted him to meet them in some general area in the plain of Ono. But Nehemiah had the wisdom and discernment to know that this is not a friendly opportunity. This is a targeted attempt to do something to stop the work by going after Nehemiah himself. And so Nehemiah knows, and at the end of verse number 2, it's recorded, but they thought to do me mischief. They had a plan from the very beginning. They were being deceptive. They were being, as we said, covert and conspiring to do this. But in verse number 3, we see the consistency. So we said that you see in verse number 1 and 2 the conspiracy toward Nehemiah. Then in verse number 3, we see the consistency within Nehemiah. Nehemiah's focus was the work that was before him. Nehemiah was not concerned about getting along with the pagan neighbors. He was concerned about doing right. He didn't care what they thought about him. He cared what God knew about him. And we find in verse number 3, Nehemiah says, "And I sent messengers unto them, saying, I am doing a great work, so that I cannot come down. Why should the work cease whilst I leave it and come down to you?" By the way, the interesting aspect from verse number 2 was that it was the plain of Ono. We already said, many preachers have used that. That should have been a sign right there. Oh no. All right. But beyond that, you find out that the direction he has to go to meet with them is down. He has to head from where he's at. He has to go in a downward direction, which some people say, well, that's just reading into everything. Well, okay, fine, call it reading into whatever. But as a whole, it's a very good picture of what happens to a lot of people when they get distracted. They head down to the wrong path, and it leads them away from where they ought to be. And when they get down to where they're going, when they look back at to where they should have never left, it now looks like it's just too much work to go back. By the way, when you let go of things that matter and you release some things you've held on to, convictions you've held on to, directions you've held on to following God, you've held. The moment you let those go and you relax and you go down to join in with a crowd that wants a lesser life and a lesser focus and a lesser requirement on things of the things of God and a lesser of this and a lesser of, when you go down to meet or match with something that is beneath where you've been standing, and I'm not saying in a derogatory term. I'm just saying it is a removal from, and you have dropped and lowered your stand. You have dropped and lowered your conviction. You have dropped and lowered your work ethic and what you do for God. You've dropped your services for the Lord down to things you used to do. I don't do near what I used to do anymore. You go down, you go down, you go down. You reduce, you reduce, you reduce. And when you get down there, when you turn around, when you let go of things, the chance that you will ever return to where you were before you went down is very slim. Because what you will find, even in a church, when a church lets go of this and lets go of that, well, we used to hold to this, but we kind of, we've let that slide. Well, we used to hold to this, we've let that slide a little bit. We used to hold to this because, we're trying to get these people over here, so we let that slide. And now we used to really be firm on these things and saying this is really important, but we're just going to, we don't have as many people wanting to come because, they don't want to have to follow certain things. They want things to be a lot more comfortable. So we're going to let go of this just for a little while. And then once we get people in, we're going to slowly bring it back. You'll never come back. Because here's the thing. I can prove it with just looking at the way things used to be years ago to where they are now. Years ago, there were certain standards, certain expectations, certain things that no one threw a fit about because it was just the norm. It was just what you expected. It was just honestly, when you came to church, there were certain things. When you were serving God, there were certain things that you just expected, and it was okay because that's just the way it's always around us is done. And then this place let go of certain things, this place let go of certain things, this place let go. Next thing you know, now the standard of expectation is dropped. The bar that we used to hold high because this is for the Lord. This is for the God we serve. This is in representation of the one who died for me. The things we used to hold at a higher standard for ourselves have been dropped. And now, by the way, it's like pulling teeth just to get back to what used to be norm. Do you realize what people, I just say 5, 6, 7 years ago, used to consider just normal expectations? If you try to get back to those expectations right now, well, that's ridiculous. Man, you're just overbearing, trying to control everybody's lives. Go back several years and nobody would have thought anything about it. You lay out here are the things that we're going to do when here's our guidelines. Guidelines? You mean you're going to make me do this in order to be a part of serving the Lord, and that you're going to make me have to follow some guidelines? It used to be automatic. Everybody knew. You mean if I'm gonna be a teacher, or if I'm gonna work in some ministry, I have to be faithful? You're gonna tell me how many times I gotta come to church? That used to be nobody even thought about it. That was automatic. If I was gonna be a teacher, I was in the house of God every single time the doors were open, unless I was sick or out of town. I was faithful to the house of God. Why? Because I am setting the example. How can I teach if I'm a bad example? Used to be. You're going to be a deacon, going to be a trustee, you're going to be this, you're going to be any area of leadership with God's people required, it was automatic. You knew, I am putting myself, just to say that I would like to be considered, I am putting myself in a position where I know I am going to have to raise the bar in my life because it is going to require me to be the example at the highest point. Now, it's, are you kidding me? You mean I'm going to have to this, and I'm going to have to that, and I'm going to be expected to that, and I'm going to have to... Really? I just want the title now. Why do I got to do all this stuff? Well, I want the position. I want the things to do. I want to serve, but I don't want to be expected to have to live to a particular level of example. You see, years ago, that used to be automatic. Nobody even questioned it. Matter of fact, you knew what you were signing up for as soon as you... Now, to say, here are the guidelines in order to do this, here are the things that you will be expected to hold yourself to as a standard, because now you're in a position a little bit further up where people, young people, old, will be looking up to your example. With position comes responsibility. But now, and this is just one example, there's many other areas you can go to, but now you give that guy, and all of a sudden it is unacceptable. You're just trying to be a ruler over my life. You're just trying to tell me what to do. No. It's like anything. Get a job working for a company, and when they want to promote you, guess what's going to come with the promotion? Some expectations. Well, I just wanted the money. Well, you're going to also get the requirements. You know what? You might actually have to start dressing a particular way because the position you have is now a position that requires you to be of a particular representation for the company. But when you start letting go of things and going down, what used to be normal, down the road, you'll look back and say, oh, that's just over the top ridiculous. It used to be easy, normal, expected, no problem. But we let go of it, and now it's just too high. I can't go back up there. It's just asking too much. And that's where we're at in society. But a little bit of a rant on that one. Didn't mean to be that way, but that's where our problem is in society today. And Nehemiah knew, if I go down trying to come, even if they don't do anything, trying to come back is going to be difficult. If I go down to their level, the possibility of me ever returning back to where I'm supposed to be is going to be very slim. Not to mention, what is the work going to suffer during that time frame? The work of God, how is it going to suffer? The people of God, how are they going to suffer during that time? He said, I've got a great work. I can't come down. There's no way. Why shouldn't the work cease whilst I leave it and come down to you? So you see the consistency of Nehemiah here. And again, he was not worried about what they were going to think about him. He was more worried about what God knew about him. Isaiah 50, verse 7 to 10 says this, "For the Lord God will help me. Therefore shall I not be confounded. Therefore have I set my face like a flint, and I know that I shall not be ashamed. He is near that justifieth me. Who will contend with me? Let us stand together. Who is mine adversary? Let him come near to me. Behold, the Lord God will help me. Who is he that shall condemn me? Lo, they all shall wax old as a garment. The moth shall eat them up. Who is among you that feareth the Lord, that obeyeth the voice of his servant, that walketh in darkness and hath no light? Let him trust in the name of the Lord and stay upon his God. Don't give up ground. Don't go down to meet those who don't want ever to come up to where you're standing. They don't want to come to where you're at. They want you to come down to them. And it's not because they want you to come down and help teach them how to raise their standard of life for the Lord. No. They want you to come down so they can corrupt and malign and destroy where you used to be. And hopefully you'll never go back because you're influencing people to take a stand. You can stand in the eyes of the world, I should say, in the eyes of the carnal. Let's put it that way. Forget the world. Let's just say in the eyes of the carnal, because that can deal with Christians and worldly, okay? In the eyes of the carnal individual, you can stand wherever you want to stand, just as long as it's not too high, it's not too holy, and it's not too convicting. You take your stand, just make sure I'm comfortable with it. And that's where we are today. You stand for something that is biblical and true, and I'll just say it, narrow way. You stand for the narrow way, you're going to find yourself with people having a problem with where you stand, and they're going to want you to come down and meet with them. Come down and let's discuss it. Let's debate on it. Can I say, the last few days, the most useless thing that I have found is debate. It has not been a fun couple of days. Just so y'all know, I don't know how many of y'all have maybe caught it or whatever, but there is a massive rift going on right now between churches and preachers and everything else, because one preacher called out another, whether he did it completely right or not, but he called out another on saying he's one thing, but something he just recently hosted and did says he's a total nother. Saying he holds to old-fashioned, but yet some things he's doing actually are part of the modern-day church movement. And again, I'm not going to make a big issue out of it. Honestly, it's become now a dividing point between I'm with so-and-so, well, I'm with so-and-so, and next thing, and Facebook has been filled with, and I'm about to just start unfollowing a whole bunch of friends. I'm so sick and tired of it. And a whole bunch of other people who are their friends, and next thing you know, independent fundamental Baptists are being absolutely slammed for being wicked, horrible, hateful, unbiblical, all because somebody said, I'm going to take a stand that is not the direction people should be going. Or better yet, if you're going to go that way, be honest about it. What you find with Nehemiah is they say, Nehemiah, come on down. Just come on down, let's talk about it. Nehemiah said, I can't talk about it. I've got a work to do. You don't want this work to be done, but I know it has to be done. I'm not coming down. I'm not quitting. So Nehemiah said, y'all can like it or lump it, but I'm staying put, and we're going to keep the work going. Now, they didn't like that too much. So in verse number 4 to verse number 14, the majority of the rest of the chapter, you find there is a collaboration against Nehemiah. Things get pretty hairy for Nehemiah and the people there. When Nehemiah left no room for compromise, the battle was on. Every nation around about Israel got in their word of opinion, and they harassed Nehemiah, just hoping that he would give in. They pushed, they pushed, they pushed, they pushed. They attacked, they attacked, they attacked. They threatened, they threatened, they threatened, just trying to get Nehemiah to say, fine, I'll come down, let's talk. Nehemiah knew that compromise was unacceptable and that it is never acceptable to do what is unacceptable. So Nehemiah stands, and he doesn't make friends by doing so. Verse number 4 says, yet they sent unto me. Now get this. They came to him the first time. Now it says, yet they sent unto me 4 times after this sort, and I answered them after the same manner. I love the fact that Nehemiah doesn't change his message. The answer's still the same, boys. There's no talking about this. There's no debating about this. I've already got carbon copies of my letter. I'm just going to go ahead and send you another one immediately. Just restamp it on a new date. Nehemiah was not going to change, was not going to alter just because they pestered him and peppered him with the maligning and the attacking. Bible says after that, the fourth time there, they sent 4 more times. So that's 5 total. Then after that, the 4th time in a row, again, it says in verse number 5, then sent Sanballat his servant unto me in like manner the 5th time with an open letter in his hand. So as a whole, when you add these up, this is 6 times they have just peppered him with trying to force him into surrender. Come down and talk to us. But with this last time that it was sent, Sanballat sent his servant with the open letter. Verse number 6 says, wherein was written, it is reported, now get this, he now sends, and he's going to go an extra level with it. Now, Sanballat is going to, he's literally going to start making things up. And this is the way you'll see this happen all over society when they're trying to get somebody to stop doing something, stop acting, stop standing on that particular platform of what you believe. They're going to start making things up. Now watch. It says, it is reported among the heathen. Well, I've heard. That's what he's saying. It is reported among the heathen, and Gashmu saith it. I don't know who he is, but evidently it was worth mentioning. That thou and the Jews think to rebel, for which cause thou buildest the wall, that thou mayest be their king, according to these words. Let me say, according to what I've heard. We actually know that from what we're hearing, all the nations around here are all saying the same thing. They've all heard the same report. And if that many people are saying it, it has to be true. Everyone is saying that you are building this in order to rebel, and so you can be a king over them and rebel against the king who rules this land. And then verse number 7 says, and thou hast also appointed prophets to preach of thee at Jerusalem. Okay? Not to preach of God. He said, you have appointed prophets to preach of thee at Jerusalem, saying, there is a king in Judah. And now shall it be reported to the king according to these words. Come now, therefore, and let us take counsel together. What he's saying is, he said, now it shall be reported to the king. That's a threat. What everybody is saying, and I know it's got to be true, because Geshmu says it, and all the other nations are saying it, and they're all saying that you're building the wall so you can make yourself a king, and you've even created prophets. You set up prophets to actually preach about you and that there is a king in Judah, and you the man. And I'm telling you, Nehemiah, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to go tattle to the king about this. I'm going to go tell the king what you've done by taking what he gave you, and now you're going to turn it, and you're building all this, and you're doing all this so you can rise up against him. I'm going to tell the king about your treachery. Now, can you see where he is just trying to spit out the threats? He is trying to place fear in the heart of Nehemiah, and he's trying to place fear in the heart of the people. He is trying to get Nehemiah to shake in his boots and to get Nehemiah to be afraid and say, just don't do that. Let's meet. I'll talk. Uncle. That's what they're trying to do. But Nehemiah knows what they're doing. Nehemiah knows their intents here. It's very like verse number 8. I love it. Verse number 8. Then I sent unto him, saying, there are no such things done as thou sayest, but thou feignest them out of thine own heart. You wicked heathen. There ain't nothing being said like that. There ain't nothing being done like that. It's just you joker. You're the one. This is coming out of your heart. You've made every bit of it up, you liar. He said, that's strong words. That's what he said. Nehemiah was not deterred. Now, again, we talked about the strength of Job on Sunday night. Let me say, right now, you're seeing the strength of Nehemiah because the threats and all that he's receiving is enough to make just about anybody cave. I mean, he is under massive pressure. And here's why he takes his stand. Here's why he says, absolutely not. You think I'm dumb or something? I know you're lying. I know you're making it up. Why is he doing that? Why is he standing so hard against them? Because in verse number 9, he said, it's recorded that Nehemiah puts this down, for they all made us afraid, saying, their hands shall be weakened from the work, that it be not done. Now, therefore, O God, strengthen my hands. What he's saying is, they did all this because they fully expected to strike so much fear into the heart of me as a leader and in the heart of the people as following the work of God to get this done. They thought they could strike so much fear in us that it would literally cause us to have no strength to handle the work, and the work would cease. Then Nehemiah stops for a second and says, but I got a very specific prayer. God, give me more strength than I ever had before. Give me strength to stand, give me strength to work, and give me strength to deal with these jokers that keep attacking. Don't let me fold under the pressure. Lord, help us to drive harder in the work. Help us to push further with the work. Help us to accomplish even more with the work while we resist the fight mentally because of what they're doing, and we press on physically because of what must be accomplished. Verse number 10 says, afterward I came into the house. They're not done with him yet. I got to hurry. After I came into the house of Shemaiah, the son of Deliah, the son of Mehetabel, who was shut up, and he said, let us meet together in the house of God. Isn't it amazing the different ways that there is no fear in the heart of the wicked when it comes to understanding who God is. There is no fear of God. There is no respect for things that are right. You find that now they're even willing to use the house of God, a place where Nehemiah wants to be, a place where Nehemiah he's building the walls for that very purpose. So the house of God will be a place that the children of Israel can meet with the Lord and follow him. And so now, let's not pull him down to some place away. Let's see if we can just get him to meet us in the house of God. Let's get together. Let's just get together with God. Set aside our differences. Set aside the fact that we really don't even worship the same God. And let's just all get together and meet in this special place. They're going to use this as a way to try to draw him in. And so he says, let us meet together in the house of God within the temple, and let us shut the doors of the temple. Oh, by the way, we want to shut the doors because ultimately we want to protect you. You know, within the house of God, there's protection. You know, in God, where God is, there's protection. He's trying to use all these, what today would be considered religiously knowledgeable terms and things, trying to use stuff without understanding what it really is, but using it for their advantage. There's protection in the house of God. It's a good place to meet. It's the place you love to go. Let's all meet together in the house of God, and then let's shut the doors so we can keep you safe. For they will come to slay thee, it says at the very end of chapter 10. Come to slay thee, yea, in the night will they come to slay thee. Verse number 11, and I said, should such a man as I flee? And who is there that being as I am would go into the temple to save his life? I will not go in. Hey, what kind of man would I be to be hiding behind my God when I'm supposed to be out here working? I'm going to use church as a way to hide myself and protect myself. By the way, that's been done in many ways. Many good people over time have failed themselves and failed God through using the house of God, the ministries, and all that kind of stuff as a hiding place for their wrongdoing. So I'm not justifying anything, but may I say, in this, Nehemiah looks and says, that's not what the house of God is for. That's not what the temple is for. And who am I to try to use the house of God for my own personal benefit, to save myself? God can take care of me right where I am. I'm not going to misuse what belongs to God for my own personal gain, such as you're suggesting. So he said, I will not go in. And verse number 12, he speaks again of his discernment. He said, and lo, I perceived that God had not sent him, but that he pronounced this prophecy against me, for Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. Therefore was he hired, that I should be afraid and do so and sin, and that they might have matter for an evil report, that they might reproach me. My God, think thou upon Tobiah and Sanballat according to these their works, and on the prophetess Noadiah, and the rest of the prophets that would have put me in fear. All this happens, and by the way, there is one prayer. Again, we're not necessarily supposed to wish evil upon anyone, even our enemies. However, there is one appropriate prayer that I say still is a valid prayer for a child of God who is undergoing a constant barrage against wicked people and wicked intents and wicked plans to draw down. And that would be the prayer of Nehemiah. My God, think thou upon Tobiah and Sanballat according to these their words. It works. He's not actually saying do anything particular to them. He's saying, Lord, would you just take note and deal with them according to their works. In other words, what is justified, Lord, would you please bring to pass? When it comes to that which they deserve, Lord, would you bring to pass exactly what they deserve for the wickedness they have tried to commit? You say, well, that's not very loving. There's nothing about this. It's about being loving in spite of it. Well, why didn't he turn the other cheek? I'm not even going to go there. There are some times you just have to say, Lord, deal with the wicked, please. And help me to have the strength to keep pushing forward in that which is right. Ultimately, this collaboration and desire to stop him did not work. In verse number 15, we see the completion through Nehemiah. All of this against him, and yet the completion of the walls and the gates and all that needed to be done was completed because there was someone who had the strength to stand against the impossible odds. Verse number 15 says, so the wall was finished in the 25th day of the month Elul, in 52 days. So in 52 days, by the way, all of this attack that happened was 52 days of constant barrage, having to be in fear of being attacked, having to have a weapon in one hand and a trowel in another. 52 days of constant attack to stop it. And yet, because Nehemiah stayed firm, the people stayed firm. Because Nehemiah wouldn't give in and go down, the people didn't give in and go down. They stayed at the work. They stayed busy. And they finished the walls. Now, verse number 16 does tell us this. It says, and it came to pass that when all our enemies heard thereof, and all the heathen that were about us saw these things, they were much cast down in their own eyes, for they perceived that this work was wrought of our God. Moreover, in those days, the nobles of Judah sent many letters unto Tobiah, and the letters of Tobiah came to them. And in verse 18 and 19, it says, for there were many in Judah sworn unto him, because he was the son-in-law. I'm going to skip verse number 18 because there's a lot of names and I don't want to say them. But he's the son-in-law of this person, who is the son of that person, who is the daughter of that person, and the son of that person. Okay. Verse number 19, also they reported his good deeds before me and uttered my words to him, and Tobiah sent letters to put me in fear. So there are people constantly trying to uplift the ones doing wicked and then tattling every little detail to the wicked so they know how they can attack. You're always going to have people who are backing the wrong people, thinking they're doing everybody a favor. It's always going to happen. The question is, are we going to fold under the pressure? Romans 8:37 says this, nay, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him that loved us. The opposition did not cease when the walls were finished. The opposition even continued after the walls were done. Just because you accomplish something for God and finish a job, it doesn't mean that Satan has finished his job. And I want to leave you with this thought, and we're done tonight. The greatest time of caution is during your greatest time of accomplishment. Because the moment you think, we did it, wham! The moment you take a second and you think, oh, success, we can now relax. About that moment, the enemy said, all right, let's hit them hard. Satan's just waiting for us to let our guard down. That's why we're encouraged every day, constantly, we've got to put on the whole armor of God. We have to be ready. We have to be vigilant. We have to be sober. There's honestly not a single moment that the child of God can rest on what we've accomplished. We can be thankful, but we have to keep guard. Until we're brought out of this life and placed in the presence of our Savior, we are facing an adversary that at times appears as though he's not paying attention. It might just be he's waiting for us to let our guard down. He might be attacking to stop the work because he really doesn't want to see it go anywhere. It's going to encourage others to do something. So he attacks, but we push through. We see it faithful, and then we take a breath, and we let our guard down. And he said, perfect, wham! And then we're like, what happened? The moment of your accomplishments in life is the moment you need to be most on guard, because Satan would love to just kick your feet out from underneath you. And if he can kick your feet out from underneath you, he's going to laugh in your face just after you had a great victory. Keep the guard up. Stand strong. Don't be willing to go down to meet anybody at their level if it's away from where God wants you to be. Stand firm. Stay strong. You don't have to be ugly, but you do have to be honest. I cannot come down. Heavenly Father, I thank you for your word, and thank you.